her Facebook website. When I think of spring, I think of daffodils. When I think of daffodils, I think of my dad. When I think of my dad, I think of all things green and beautiful. Love you, Dad.
Laurel asked me to say some things that I've heard her say through the years and stuff she's written more recently. So we put some thoughts together, and it's called, I kind of titled it, A Few Attributes of Victor Binkley, or Things that Rick picked up listening to Vic's kids, especially Laurel. One of the most pronounced attributes of Vic was that he had an awe and wonder of living things. Vic truly seemed amazed at all of God's creation and the miracle of life. He spent lots of time gardening and raising fish in tanks and ponds. This attribute is also one of the things that made Vic great at his vocation. He didn't look at a human being as just a carbon-based machine, but a miracle of God's creation with unimaginable complexity. Vic, no doubt, was an avid gardener. However, some didn't always quite understand the time Vic would spend in gardening. For instance, if you wanted to talk to Vic, you had to go find him in his garden. Like Laurel, it helped if you actually liked gardening. If you didn't, then this attribute might have driven you a little mad. Why should anyone have to risk pulling weeds just to talk to their father? Yet Laurel relates that someone that creates such beauty must have had that beauty inside of himself as a reflection of the beauty of God. He created gardens and pathways, ponds teeming with life, statues and little surprises here and there along the way. He enjoyed the spectacle of grandchildren throwing cat food to the fish in the ponds. He kept himself surrounded by a nature of loveliness and beauty. One time more recently, when Laurel was alone with her father, surrounded by the fish tanks in his office, she expressed that she did not always have enough opportunity to talk to him alone. Well, true to the Binkley wry sense of humor, he simply replied, "Well, what do you want to talk about?" Well, we all expected Vic to have another 30 years where we could find him in his garden. Just last summer, Laurel remembers him standing in his flower garden, which was more beautiful and full of color than she had ever seen. It was a heavenly garden. He told Laurel once that when he got to heaven, he wanted to be one of God's gardeners. That is how she pictures him now. No bugs, no weeds, no diseases, just beauty, sunlight, and color, not of this world. Given his awe of God's creation, Vic knew how resilient life could be. And his kids knew this from experience. Sometimes when one of them was expecting a very compassionate doctor-like response, they got instead a simple, "You'll be okay." We wonder if any of Vic's actual patients had to put up with that kind of attitude. But no doubt, Vic also knew very well how fragile life could really be. He wouldn't hesitate to prescribe whatever he thought necessary for our well-being. We have heard Vic say more than once, and you've probably heard it too, that for most of human history, a day without any pain was a good day. He told Laurel once that he even operated on a bubble-eyed goldfish because a deformity was interfering with its sight and swimming ability. Well, another attribute of Vic's was his ability, we've heard, to do seemingly almost anything he put his mind to. Well, when I got to Laurel, imagine my surprise when I learned that Vic, a surgeon mind you, someone who does pretty important things with their hands, but he was also good with power tools. Well, that combination seemed to be tempting fate just a little bit. But Vic could indeed create beautiful things. Laurel remembers helping her dad build a loft in his house. One of the last things he did was to build that beautiful greenhouse. That really combines some of Vic's talents, and every time you see this, it's going to remind us of him. Now, it has sometimes been said, and I won't say by who, that Vic led a charmed life in some respects. This was likely due to the fact that things always just seemed to work out for him the way he had planned. Or was it rather because he modeled his life on God's plans and didn't complain when things did not go as expected. Of course, he didn't usually let you know when things didn't go as expected. He simply said with a wry smile, "There's been a change of plans." Laurel remembers the times when she had hoped for a change of plans due to turmoil that might have been going on in Haiti at the time. His children sometimes feared for his safe travels and a safe return, but Vic never had any fear. He simply said God would take care of us. But in relation to a charmed life, how many knew that Vic suffered from back pain? Vic said this might have actually masked some of the symptoms he had later on here more recently. Vic also had malaria at some point. He told Laurel it was the worst he ever felt in his life. Yet again, he didn't want anyone to worry. He didn't want anyone to complain. He didn't want to complain, except that it kept him from doing the things he thought he should be doing. And another attribute of Vic was having always right, even when he just knew he was wrong. Yet we realize that being firm in one's belief and knowledge is another attribute that God used to make Vic great at his vocation. Where it really mattered, those firmly held convictions, his knowledge and confidence in his abilities, we knew could ease suffering, could save a life, and could be equated with his great faith. And Vic had great faith. We see that. He said, "Yes, Lord, I believe," but he also said, "Yes, Lord, I will." And like Abraham, God sent him off to foreign lands to do great things, taking his family along for the ride. Some of Laurel's favorite memories were going off with her father among the people of other countries, exploring hidden pathways and talking to people along the way. He had a curiosity to see what was out there, and he was good enough to take his children along with him. What a great lesson for children to experience how fortunate they truly were, and to experience the simple miracle of a seemingly bottomless tub of peanut butter and baby food that never ran out until just before supplies arrived. Vic knew with absolute certainty that in following God's will, God himself would provide. What a beautiful lesson for his children it was. And then there's one last attribute of Vic that, well, this one seemed to drive people crazy the most. That is Vic's completely steady and almost unemotional demeanor. Some have referred to this, at least in part, as having a phlegmatic personality. If you wanted Vic to get excited about something that perhaps you were excited about, well, good luck. Well, that was especially true if it involved spending any money. Frugality was another attribute that served Vic really well. He would say, "Yes, it would certainly be nice to have that, but we can live without it." We saw that those weren't just empty words. Vic practiced what he preached. He never drove anything much more than your basic Chevy. But we saw that Vic's ability to remain level-headed and even keel most surely helped him in his mission and his vocation. Laurel says it for Dad. He was always the rock in the midst of the storm. Vic didn't worry over the things for which he had no control. Vic didn't get emotional about things, especially with words. And instead, we saw his actions speak louder than words. Even if we may not have understood it at the time, Vic's actions truly displayed great love and compassion. That being just a good reflection of the love and compassion God has for all of us. In conversations with Vic in his last few months, Laurel sensed that her dad was given the ability to sense things more emotionally. Perhaps this was a gift from God, and it was likely an extension of the ability he had all along to see how everything fit into the bigger picture, but now more than ever, to see the beauty of that picture. Vic said he wished he could have had more time with his friend, the ones he loved. And believe it or not, he wished he could have done more. Again, we all thought he never had another 30 years. So we know that the very things we may not have always appreciated about a parent, for instance, may be the very qualities that God uses to be great do this. What a great example of self-giving for a father to leave for his children.